welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. This morning, Hilarie and I are stringing a short section of fence across what we call the lower field. Right?
Yeah, and the cows are going to come down and yell. They'll make statements that we're going too slow.
If we're lucky, Hilarie might yell.
I don't think I'm going to yell.
She does that sometimes.
No, I don't think I'm going to yell.
We'll see. What we're doing here is making our mob grazing arrangements as they move through the fields a little easier to do when the height of summer comes. I made a little diagram for you out of sticks. This is our lower field, this big square here, and it's about 10 acres. And this is the laneway that comes down to the lower field. Our middle grazing field is over here. And right now our middle field is divided down the center with T-post fencing into 2 5-acre smaller fields. Now as we graze these fields, remember we strip graze, so we start out with a fence here and this gate is closed. There's a gate right here and we strip graze this and then we keep moving the fence down the line and strip graze this field. But when we get to this lower field, we've always had to run a temporary fence down here to close this off, and then we strip graze this field just like we did this other field. So we want to avoid having to build a temporary fence there every year. I'm standing in the front half of that field now where the fence needs to be built. So it needs to be built from that gate way down there. You can see it, it's right in front of my neighbor's grain bin, to way up here where the laneway comes in. But you know, before we get started, you always got to stop and smell the flowers, or in this case, observe the wonderful maple leaves that have come out in the last 4 days. I love them. We got all of our fence and supplies in the front, carry all the tractor. We need the wire first. It's important to bring Hilarie along for these kinds of jobs. See? We go right down here. And here we are at the lower gate. We're going to run right off of the end insulators of this gate with just plain old 14 gauge wire, nothing special. I'm going to use a big screwdriver on the wire roll and just unroll it. And now that we're up at the other end, I just put some tension on the wire by hand to pull it straight, and then we've got a straight row to set our fence posts on. Pace out 20 feet because that's what I need to get through with the hay by and the tractor. Drive the gate post at 20 feet. We use this hardware for bracing corners. It's expensive, but I can't find anything else that works as well. So it's not a big deal in the big scheme of things. And this piece goes in here and it all locks on the post like that. Set the angled post in. And now with the angled post touching the ground over here, I can see where to set the second post to brace it. And of course it's on a rock, you know. Put the same hardware on the lower post. Lock it in there. Pace off 30 of my feet to the next post. Yes, I know you can do a 1 yard pace, but I like to do this. Then we bring in the muscle to start driving the posts after that. Well, let's try that again. It's amazing what a difference a week makes. This is orchard grass and it's starting to try and head out already. Luckily the cows did exactly what I want them to do and clip the top of the stalks off. Set the other corner brace onto the existing fence. And then we put insulators on all the line posts, 3 feet. And 18 inches. Hang the wire on the top one. There we go. Looks like we have some impatient customers here. We'll be done in a few minutes, guys. Oh, Patty. Now this is the end post where the gate is, so we put a couple bullet insulators to terminate the wire at the end of the main run of fence here. And then we'll come down the line here and put a tensioner in around the halfway point. It's a short run, so it doesn't really matter that much. Then we can cut the fence at the gate take care of that termination. Then we can get the lower wire started. The cows agree. Roll out the lower strand. We can put in the lower tensioner mid-run. Terminate the far end of the wire on the insulator. Wire it so it grabs juice off of the adjacent fence. Tension the wires. Meanwhile, these guys are wondering when their lunch buffet is going to open. They're all waiting at the lines, just like the old country buffet. And now we can fix up Patty, the gate. We'll start with 2 bullet insulators on this end to anchor this end of the gate. You guys.
They're pretty outraged.
Now we'll run the gate wire end into the bullet insulator, leaving some extra wire. Then I run that wire around onto this side, and that's how we get juice to the gate. Tie it into the fence here. Roll the gate wire out. Put the gate handle on the other end. Put the wire through it. Bring the wire tight with your hand. Bend it around. And that's still a little bit loose, so you unhook the gate handle. Give it a little bit more tension by sliding it down the wire. And bending it again. Then you've got good tension on it. Make the termination. And do the same thing with the second gate handle. Now we want to make a gate hold open for this gate on the lower end. And the way we do that is stretch the gate handles in the open position, then locate a post so we're kind of right at the edge so the wires get held off the ground. Then we take an old insulator and put that on the post. And then we make a short piece of insulated wire, and this has got the hard insulator on it. This tends to hold up a lot better than this empty rubber tube you can buy. This stuff wears through. This has a very hard plastic shell on it, and I've had good luck with it. We make a loop out of that and then put it on here, and this insulator holds it up. And then we can take our gate handles and just hang them on this insulated loop. And now we have the gate handles held up all the way along the run so they're not grounding out when you leave the gate open. Cows all went up to hang out under the trees, so I'll have to call them down. Come on, cows! They're all standing on the hill over there. Come on, cows! Come on, cows! Here they come, single file, just like sand people. Better hides their numbers, you know. Come on, cows! It's dry already. It's going to rain this afternoon and tomorrow. It'll be appreciated. You guys know. Yeah. All right, guys. Come chomp your heart out. There they all go. Yeah, Patty. We got a few stragglers still coming in. Old Carrie's way back there. She's got to be 14, 15 years old now. She'll make her way down. Look at this grass they're moving on to. This stuff is really shot up in 5 days or a week. It's up past my knees now, and the orchard grass is heading out. Doesn't take long. In fact, we had them on 5 acres. That was the previous field, and the grass grew faster than they could eat it. When they left the field, the grass was taller than when they entered it. Yeah, look, the grass is up to their bellies. Look at this alfalfa growing in here. Wow. Clover coming up through the bottom here. I am changing my opinion from the previous video. Oh, I must have scared them. This grass will be ready to cut in the beginning of June. And so I want to just spend a few words about grazing plans. And I never have a plan, so to speak, for grazing when I turn them out in the spring. In general, any plan that I do have is to run them over all the fields fairly quickly and let them kind of head over the whole farm one by one. And this is the third to last field where we'll be doing that. Now, the grass has grown fast enough where I'm facing a decision of whether to clamp down my grazing areas into a daily mob grazing strip like we always do, or to continue with large area grazing like I talked about last fall, with the thought being that I can take a cutting of hay off of more fields that way, instead of setting aside fixed fields every year for hay and rotating through as I do. Fields are both pasture and hay field depending on the year. What I want to try doing, maybe, I'm still thinking about it, is using all the fields this year both for hay and for grazing. So for instance, this field, they won't eat this down. They'll go through and selectively graze it, and I'll have a lot of forage left after they move on to the next field. I can cut hay off of this field, and I can do that with all the fields they've been over so far. So in a sense, every field on the farm is both being grazed and having hay taken off of it based on the improvisation of the weather, how fast the grass is growing, how much kind of stockpile that I have for the cows yet to eat through. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. I like trying new things, and we've strip mob grazed for years now, and this is something that is an interesting experiment for me. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave you. Happy eating. I like to see eating that stocky stuff. That's a good deal, 2104. The trick to the whole situation is, and I've run into this before, not to let the cattle into grazing a whole field when it's gotten too tall, because the trample just gets to be too great of a percentage and you really can't make hay off of it very efficiently at that point. You know, these guys were belly aching like they were starving, and now they're following me up. I'm beginning to suspect that they just like to complain.
I think they do.
Is that a female quality? I guess I should start calling this the experimental farm, because the kind of love of farming that comes to me is trying new things all the time and seeing what works best. Bye, guys. Oh, you're gonna follow the tractor too. Now on to a fly control update. Notice I said control, not eliminate. I don't plan on ever eliminating it. You might have noticed when we were working on the fence, there's a lot of flies down there, and that's because we're down by the woods. I can remember picking berries along the wood line when I was a kid, and there being lots of bugs and getting bit up. I'm not going to remove the flies from the woods, so that isn't even a goal of this project. This being an experimental farm, I have 3 experiments in progress now for fly control. The first experiment started was putting fly paper by the watering trough so that the flies fly off the cow's face and onto the paper. As you can see, I've caught quite a few here now, and I have fly paper on the other side of the board now so that it's sun and shade. I've found that the sunny side has caught fewer flies so far than the shady side. Watch out, guys. Measure number 2 that I instituted was Redmond garlic salt. Measure number 3 are jar fly traps, and I've put 2 of those out so far. Look at this, they've been up for 4 days. Oh my gosh, there's thousands of flies in there. And I hung a second fly trap over here in the tree, and that one has caught much fewer flies. The winning combination so far early in the season is putting the fly paper next to the stock tank so that when the cows come up the flies fly on, and putting the jar trap next to it so the flies are drawn. This stuff is really stinky. It's got some kind of something that you put in the water in a powdered bag, and it smells, but the flies love it. They're always buzzing around here, and so when the cow comes up to drink, the flies are like, oh, there's something that smells good there, and they head over here, and some of them get stuck to the fly paper and some of them wind up in the trap. So this is working well. It's working so well that I have 4 more of those jar traps coming, and they're bigger ones. They're much larger ones. They're up to catch up to 35,000 flies. The nice thing about them is when they fill with flies, I can put on my respirator, and you bet they stink, and dump them out, and then I have replacement packs of that smelly stuff to put in and put some water in and reuse them over and over again. Part of doing an experiment in proper scientific fashion is staying the course as conditions change over the summer. So I expect I'm going to be staying with these 3 strategies as we go through and comparing it to a normal year. The garlic, I think, is going to take a while. You know, from what I've read, it takes time for the cattle to get used to it and then to eat more of it and then for it to work through the cattle system and repel the flies. So I'll keep updating you on that. As for how many flies are on the cows, which is the real proof in the pudding, you know, when they're lounging up here, there's not a lot on them. Old Grumpy Patty, she doesn't have a lot of flies on her. These guys look pretty good. A few flies around the eyes there on 2004. Not a lot. Coco, almost none. You, not very many, less than 10. So I'm happy with the way that my experiment's going now because the flies are definitely reproducing. I don't know if you noticed in those jar traps, I'm catching a lot of very young flies. They're small, and you want to break the life cycle and kill those little suckers before they reproduce. Man, that is really gross. It's like something out of a horror movie. Ugh. I just came in from the Grove where I was talking about fly control, and it started thunderstorming, and now it's drizzling, and it's some much needed moisture. It's amazing how fast things dry out in the summertime. We've had a stretch of warm, sunny weather, and that following a wet spring, the ground dried out in no time. In fact, became powder dry. Now, my perfect summer weather is, and it's got to be just this, 2 days of nice sunshine followed by 1 day of rain. Keeps the grass growing, gives me a little break once in a while. You know, rainy day I can slow down a little bit, but I also need several stretches of 4 days of sun with no chance of rain so I can make hay. So if there's anybody out there that can arrange that for me, that would be a really good thing. Just get back to me and let me know, and I'll put it on my calendar accordingly. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day. I hope your week's going all right. I'll be back later this week with another video about poultry. We're putting broilers out on pasture, and we've got some things to do related to that. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.